Hello everyone! Today we're doing a live streaming with Emma Ripping, and I'd like her to introduce herself and what she does. But basically this will be a series of the data science and artificial intelligence projects which we'll be broadcasting and working with the young what people call millennials or Gen Z or whatever that generation is. But this is a generation which I think holds a future. And I think we need to help, support, and encourage whatever you do. It's fantastic. So can you tell us a little bit about your project and how did you start?
Yeah, so my project is about using machine learning to basically save honeybees. So I think it's pretty well known now that honeybees are pretty much on the decline. I think in recent years, in the recent decades or so, they've been just dying off due to a variety of things, from climate change to parasites, just a variety of factors.
Right.
So my project kind of uses machine learning to tackle this problem. So when I started out, I wanted to basically use data to train an algorithm that would be able to detect illnesses within a hive, whether that's by looking at the honeycomb in the hive or just looking at the bees' bodies themselves. And so in order to do that, I realized that I had to build a data set of these images. So I ended up focusing on just images of bees. So pretty much what I did was I developed a process to analyze videos of bees and extract basically image crops of these bees, and basically the process both extracts the images of the bees and also semi-automatically labels them. So this basically populates a data set of these bee images that can be used by data scientists, by machine learning specialists, by basically anyone to train an algorithm. And I released my images on Kaggle, which is a data science platform. So I think currently there's around 5,000 images, and it's been downloaded several thousand times.
That's cool. So how did you get the images? How did you get hold of images? Or you were doing it yourself?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So this is actually one of the breakthrough moments of my project, was kind of figuring out how I could get these videos that I was going to extract the images from. And what I ended up doing was reaching out to the beekeeping community, both internationally and in my community. So I'm from the Bay Area, so there's the Santa Clara Valley Beekeeping Guild. So I reached out to them, I presented my project, and basically asked for video submissions of just people taking videos of bees entering and exiting their hive. And there were a few requirements in terms of it should be a time lapse, the camera should be stable, and just a few requirements for the videos, but it's pretty straightforward. And so I ended up getting videos, and I also went on Facebook and I posted it in a whole bunch of Facebook groups, just asking, kind of explaining what I was doing.
It's wonderful when you have this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I reached out to a whole bunch of communities and basically just explained what I was doing. And there was a really overwhelmingly positive response in terms of everyone was so excited to be contributing, to be a part of this project, to be sending in videos and to just get involved. So I think that was something big that I realized, that it wasn't just me working on this project alone. It was I was able to kind of take in the passion of these beekeepers from around the world, really, and leverage their support and their excitement about beekeeping, about solving this problem, about saving their hives, to basically put together this data set.
So the project right now is at Kaggle as a data set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the next step? So did you give this data sets back to the beekeepers? What's the output? What do we get in return for sharing data?
Yeah, that's a great question. So to begin with, I pretty much just asked, I kind of, when I put out my call for the videos, it was kind of straightforward, this is my end goal. My end goal is to basically use machine learning, use this new technology and apply it to this very traditional craft, basically. And so people kind of really jumped on that idea. So it wasn't really, I didn't really have, obviously when at the very beginning, I had this very grand dream of being able to save the bees, to be able to save basically millions of beehives with maybe an app or something like that, some kind of product. That's kind of the final step that I was envisioning. So there's definitely a variety of ways that going from data to training the machine learning model to the final step of having an app or some kind of Raspberry Pi that you can attach to a beehive. I think there's a variety of ways that there's a variety of commercial applications for sure.
Absolutely.
I haven't really gotten to that point yet because I just kind of started out with the data, but I think there's definitely a lot of possibilities for how you can harness this and then leverage it to make a product. And I know that there's already existing products kind of similar to that. And like throughout my research, I kind of reached out to those companies and reached out to people that were working on these projects, kind of explaining what I was doing, and like I think like explaining and like especially emphasizing on the research aspect of making my data like available to all researchers. So it was definitely like it's like a very long process to go from just collecting the data to actually making it a product. And yeah, I guess I'm just at the beginning still.
So do you dream about making it into some sort of product?
Yeah,
I mean, the goal, the noble goal is to save the bees. Right. But actually saving bees, you can do it commercially or via some sort of non-profit, creating a foundation. I think the most viable is creating a business and really with the good objectives and goals. And I mean, even with Santa Clara, Bee Guild can help you with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having a business
would be a product.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Actually, in the fall at school, we had a class. I was in a class called Social Innovation, and it was kind of focused on that, like basically building like a product or something, an organization or something that basically has like a positive impact, like a positive social impact. And my group, we actually kind of focused on saving the bees. So it was kind of like a way of imagining like a next step for our product, or like for my research, sorry. Like imagining what I could do and what like we could do if we were able to make it into a product. So kind of what our group envisioned, and we ended up like participating in this New Hampshire Social Innovation Challenge. It was very exciting. But basically what we envisioned was kind of a Raspberry Pi product that you would attach above the entrance of a beehive, and it would have a camera and it would be powered by solar panels, and it would just have all these things where it would record a video of the bees entering and exiting the hive and then send that to an app on your phone. And on the app, you could, if you had like 10 beehives, for example, you could have a product on each of them, and you could see what was happening in each of the separate beehives. You have like status updates if it senses that something is wrong, like if there's a sudden influx of bees, or suddenly like all the bees stop leaving, or if it detects any kind of illness on the bees in the video, then it would send you a notification, and then you like as a beekeeper would be able to act accordingly and like treat the hive. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities for like a commercial application of this research for sure.
How did you start?
Okay, yeah. Let's start from
How did you start?
Yeah, so my family actually does beekeeping. We have a few beehives in our backyard. So that's kind of how I was really like introduced to it in the first place. And so the idea and the inspiration from all of this came from one of our beehives just suddenly died. So it was kind of like a very like shocking thing, like out of the blue, like why did that happen? And it definitely sparked a lot of curiosity and just thinking about like how I could prevent that in the future. And so I did some research, and it turns out that if you're a really good beekeeper, then basically you have to open the beehive and like open the box and take out each of the frames individually and inspect the front and the back and just do like a very thorough inspection. And then if you spot something wrong, then you can basically, if you spot it like in a timely manner, then you can treat the beehive.
So you have to do it every day or every month, every week?
About like, you would spend like an hour each week checking each beehive. So for our family, like we were really pretty new to it. We'd only done beekeeping for like around a year. So obviously like as less experienced beekeepers, it's really easy to just like miss something or like miss a symptom if something is going wrong. So it kind of prompted this of like, oh, what if we could use like, you know, machine learning to like manage the hives and to do the inspections and to basically be able to look out for any diseases, and it just be like an extra helping hand for someone who's kind of new, doesn't really know so much of what they're doing. Or even if you're like if you're a commercial beekeeper and you have like thousands of beehives, it's a lot of manpower to inspect them one by one. So it would just be something that's like hugely time saving and would just be kind of like an assistant to the beekeeper. So that's kind of like what the starting point was. So immediately I was like, let's build this machine learning model. But then the biggest problem was like a lack of data. And there's like a lack of data both in terms of what's going on inside the hive, like there aren't really pictures of like a healthy brood versus an unhealthy brood, or there just isn't that much data, image data overall. So I think that's when I realized like this is like a huge like I guess like opportunity almost to like seriously contribute something to just like this initiative overall, is to be able to get the data, since that's like, you know, the starting point for almost anything, because without data you can't like train any kind of model, you can't build anything at all. So I realized the importance of data, and looking at traditional data sets out there, a lot of them, like ImageNet for example, is like the most popular data set. It's like I think it's probably the biggest one. It has basically images of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that was labeled by, like, going on Amazon Mechanical Turk, and basically people just were paid to look at the images and just label them. So that's a model that doesn't really work for bees, because you need to be pretty much an expert beekeeper in order to like recognize an African bee versus like a European bee, and to just be able to like recognize these really small differences. So that's when I realized, like, how am I supposed to build this data set? So that I think like that was definitely another big challenge of just figuring out how I could do this, given that this is a craft that there's like very few experts. But I think like there was also a silver lining in that, and the fact that there are very few experts is that they're all very excited and enthusiastic about what they're doing.
Yes, they're passionate about it.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what I saw, like what I previously saw as like a drawback, is like that's actually an opportunity, because there aren't that many beekeepers, but the ones that there are so excited, and they're so excited to share their knowledge and get involved, and obviously to save the bees. So I think that's like that was a challenge that I kind of was able to turn around and turn into something that I could use to my advantage. Yeah, and then going forward, definitely getting people to respond was a big challenge, just kind of like getting the word out there. But I think it was something that it helped, like it grew like exponentially almost. Like it was really hard to get like the first few people involved, but like more and more as I was like posting in more groups, people would like share my posts, or it was just something that kind of snowballed into something bigger. So I think like to summarize, a few of the biggest challenges were like just getting started, like figuring out what I was going to do.
I think what's most important is that you're passionate. The most successful projects are the ones who are not care about money, but it's a passion.
Right.
Like the beekeepers, that community, as I understand, is very passionate about this craft.
Yeah.
They know about hives, flowers, lots of things, temperature, which are going into this craft. And people are knowledgeable and passionate, and they're willing to share. That's too important. And so yes,
absolutely.
I think passion drives the world.